Awesome right here. Welcome to my review for episode 40 of King-ohger. Crazy that we're already at episode 40 and we're right around the corner from Boom Boonger. It's weird because like a lot has happened in the series and I feel like obviously, we spent a lot of time there, but also it somehow feels like it was just announced and that like Spider Kimonos was just revealed. But anyway, what a crazy episode. A lot of really good King-ohger stuff happened, but also I felt a little bit of a weird pacing with this episode overall. One part was kind of my problem, but the other one I think was the episode's to a degree. The part that was my problem was we start off with like everyone being injured and stuff, and I'm like, what the hell? Was there an attack? And it was like confused with like, Rackley is like, oh, I'm gonna do all these attacks and blame Gira or whatever, and I'm like, did I miss a scene? First I thought that I missed like an ambush at the end of the last episode, and then I thought maybe I accidentally skipped over it when I fast forwarded through the opening, but I forgot that they all collapsed at the end of the last episode. So until like the triumphant like scene where they're all like, we're kings and we have to do king stuff, most of the team is laid up in like unnecessary bandages because when they take them all off, there's like no injuries. And there's like a funny bit with Rita when I think Gira accidentally lands on him, says like, oh, Muffin, I'm gonna come see you soon. So yeah, that was like my problem with like the pacing because I kind of forgot. Like I remember them defeating the enemy last week, but I didn't remember them all collapsing from the effort of Instincts Awaken or whatever. But anyway, you have Rackley's, working with the bad guys. He's like a member of their crew now. And his plan is to like have these attacks with the Shoe Gods and frame Gira yet again. And so Gira's the only one that's like fine. And so he's fighting at the beginning of the episode. Shout out to us using the bike from like the figures that we haven't used in like a bazillion episodes. And that's when Prince shows up, joins the fight, and he's like, oh, things aren't going so well, so I need Mini Tira. And there's like just a brief fight scene with the two Reds, really good looking fight scene. As I always say every week for the past like 40 weeks, the King-ohger fight scenes are always great and cinematic, but this definitely bothered me. It's funny because when the Kyoryuger announcement happened, I was like worried about it being intrusive to the show because the show's so good, and then they, proved me wrong. The two episodes were great tribute to Kyoryuger. They actually integrate it into the mythology in an interesting way, but yet the last two uses of Kyoryuger stuff definitely felt like what I was worried it was going to be, which is intrusive. And I want to be clear, it's not in an overly negative way where I'm like super pissed or think it ruins the episode or the show, but it definitely irks me a little bit. Like I felt like the sword and the mecha in the previous one was very brief. It didn't, mess up the plot, but it was definitely forced. But this one definitely felt completely out of place and unnecessary in my opinion. I think it was largely done, to be honest, I think it was mostly done to remind people to buy the toys. I think we're going to see him again and we're going to pick up a version of that plot, but I think it was primarily for the toys. But narratively, I think it was done because he's like letting us know things aren't going so great on Earth. But I feel like if he were to show up in like, let's say episode 47 or whatever when he shows up, if he was just to come by and be like, okay, things aren't going great, we need your help. We didn't need this in between. Like, I feel like this was unnecessary completely plot-wise. Not to mention, I think it kind of interrupted the plot in a weird way because you have the Shoe Gods being controlled and attacked, and attacking rather, and then they're all of a sudden like, no, we have to randomly actually just use them for this quick mecha sequence, and then they're going to be attacking again. I don't know. That was my least favorite part of the episode because it definitely, I could feel the corporate wheels getting in the way of the episode, and like it just ruined the pacing of the episode because if you take out my initial confusion at the beginning and you take this out, it's like a normally like tightly paced episode, but this was just so random, and it's like funny that it happened in this pretty big episode, just basically like a commercial shoved in there. Though admittedly, like King-ohger doesn't exactly have like the most convenient places to drop in, because it's pretty serialized, so every episode kind of rolls into the next and you always have plots going on. Like if this was any other Sentai, there'd be like 10 to 15 episodes of like valueless nothing that you could just drop them in. So that's at least that. But anyway, I wanted to talk about that, but we got big stuff going on. Rackley's reveals himself to the world being like, hey look, I've been Rackley's the whole time. He's like, bombshell announcement guys, I'm not Matt. Like, you're Kylo Ren. Basically tries to frame Gira again, but it's not just like, oh, look at all the terrible attacks he's doing by controlling. He's controlling them because, dun dun dun, he was actually made by Doug's Dead or whatever the main enemy's name is. And like, yeah, he was like, a gift to us because for years we've been working with Doug's Dead and he was a gift given to us, and that's why he's such a specialist boy, and he's able to control the Shoe Gods, and then like the villain shows it off by like controlling Gira and then controlling the Shoe Gods. I didn't see this coming at all. Obviously we knew Gira had Toku protagonist syndrome of being this specialist boy character that had, stuff. I thought I was gonna somehow tie to him somehow actually being Kuwagata's soul or something, but I didn't see this in particular thing coming. I'm sure there were some people that did, some people that claim they saw it coming but really didn't, but just want the street cred. for like, what kind of credit does that give you? Like, I'm admittedly getting some mixed feelings about how involved all of like the alien interdimensional being stuff is with all the backstory of like, yeah, they were involved in creating this stuff and they're involved in creating Gira. I'm also a little bit confused about sort of the timeline of what Yanma made, what was made by like the ancient King-ohger people, what was involved with the aliens. I hope that's cleared up a little bit, but still, it was a pretty big twist and it definitely intrigued me for effectively this last run of the series. We have like 10 more episodes left or so, and especially in how it might affect like the story of Rackley's, of like how would this have to do with maybe him turning. Maybe he was like a caring, giving brother, and then when he found out his brother was just really a manifestation of Doug's dead, that's what made him turn. He certainly didn't show any signs of that. Like there was a moment where he's like, oh, we're gonna save humanity, and Doug's dead's like, we're really gonna save him, and he's like, nah, man. Yeah, that was really an interesting revelation. But like, you see what I mean about like, this was a huge revelation of like answering a mystery and also answering a mystery we didn't even know was a mystery. And then you got Kyoryuger just showing up for nonsense. Like at the end though, when he's trying to get like the mecha to attack everybody, the mecha seizes back control, and I'm glad it wasn't just like, oh, Gira uses special Toku Boy powers and it stopped it. It wasn't just that, it was like the Shoe God's will themselves stopped it, which was nice. Although it was kind of funny because like when it's happening, he starts listing all of them off, like, oh, my allies, and he starts listing all the mecha, but there's like 20 of them. Like it was almost a parody of itself, like comedically how long it went on. I'm like, okay, wrap it up. Like we're done, we get it. Like do we have to list the ants and the spiders? They're not even really mecha. It reminds me like, oh, the first mecha with 20 pieces. I'm like, is it though? Like look at that. That's a lot. That's smaller than a Ninja Storm locked-in drop. It kind of ends there with them attempting to get Gira and the mecha to attack, and then the mecha take back control, and you get this really dumb shot of like Gira's face in the mecha helmet, which almost made me upset with how, like, not upset, like, I know all this shows up, but it was so annoying. I'm like, oh my god, I don't like that. I don't like this image. But that's where it ends off. And there is a really, actually, it follows it up with a really cool shot of Gira with like the mecha in the background. But yeah, huge revelation this episode. I did not see this coming. I think it sets us off on another interesting status quo change. My only, like I said, complaints outside of the intrusive Kyoryuger crossover was, again, I'm a little bit confused and slightly, not annoyed, but I have mixed feelings about like how involved the alien beings are with so much of the mythology. Like, obviously it makes sense they impacted a lot of it, but I wish that like every single thing wasn't explained by them. And obviously this is a very different case, but I hope that this arc goes differently in terms of, I feel like we've seen the whole turning the public against the King-ohger storyline like 5 times in the series. Like, obviously there was a level of smartness to the way they used it here, where it was like, oh, they're turning it against the public again, but they actually have a piece of information that's huge. But I just hope it plays out a little bit differently, because again, as much as I love the series, definitely feel a bit of Rapido vibes of, the turning against them, our favorite villager shrieking at the top of his lungs. But otherwise, it was, I don't want to say, it was a good episode. Like, there was a lot of good stuff in the episode. I just definitely feel the episode delivery was mixed, but I remain excited for the series. But what did you guys think about the major revelations of this episode? What did you think about the random appearance of Prince? Not the artist, but the Sentai character. I think we're going to see him one more time, but I just feel this setup was needless. But let me know in the comments as always. Till next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Awesome Writer, signing out.